Golf Central on YouTube is brought to you by the new Chrome Tour golf ball from Callaway.
As we say hello to Todd Lewis and Steve Burkowski, both were on site for Scottie's win on Sunday. And Todd, let's start with you on Scottie. He's already shown us that he is not afraid of the moment, but this one, for some reason, seemed to hit differently. Now, historically, to me, I would liken it to the 1972 Open at Muirfield. That week's favorite coming in, of course, was Jack Nicklaus, and ironically, he entered that week with a sore neck. It would feel well enough on Sunday for Jack to make a decent pass at the ball. He felt that he needed to shoot a 65, and he was right. After he shot a 66, he finished one back of Lee Trevino, who chipped in at 17 to dispatch Tony Jacklin and to edge Jack Nicklaus. Now, for Scheffler, though, his 64 was emphatic. It was different. It comes across as something historic. He's now finished in the top 10 49 times, in the top 5 36 times, in the top 3 25 times, and only 118 starts on the PGA Tour. 3 of his 7 stroke play wins, in fact, were come from behind victories. The question is this, though, a turning point? Is this that we just saw a new chapter of Scottie Scheffler?
Well, I think more than anything, he showed me guts this past week because there are a lot of players that with that neck issue would have just kind of mailed it in and said, you know, hey, I'll try to get as best a finish as I can get. But he was determined to prove that he is the best golfer on the planet, and he did just that. Is this a turning point? I asked Ted Scott, has he elevated himself over the last a few months? Ted Scott, of course, his caddy, a great weapon for Scottie Scheffler, by the way. And he said that he has not. In actuality, he comes to work and brings his best each and every day. And when he is on, he's really on. I mean, if you think about what he has done over the last few years, last year he was first in strokes gained off the tee, first in strokes gained approach, 162nd in strokes gained putting, still was PGA Tour Player of the Year. Now, this year so far, first gained strokes off the tee, first gained strokes gained approach, 7th, by the way, in scrambling, and 89th in strokes gained on the greens and putting. And so he has improved that putting. He's won the last 2 events he's played with this new mallet-style putter. And I'm telling you, he's an intimidating force on the leaderboard. I talked to Xander Schauffele, Wyndham Clark, Brian Harman. They saw Scottie Scheffler going north on that leaderboard yesterday, and it was definitely a factor on them.
And Todd, let's go back to the conversation a week ago at the start of the Players Championship. Scottie coming in as world number 1, the defending champ, the big victory at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. And the chatter was, if he putts like he did at Bay Hill, can he be beat? Is he just the insurmountable figure at the top of this world golf ranking? And then you and I go back to Friday afternoon. We saw the treatment Scottie was getting on the back 9 Friday, and he turned to both of us and a few others in the media and said, I respectfully have declined to talk to you guys. And he did it with a bit of levity, but he also did it by turning his entire body. He could not turn his neck. We monitored the situation, both you and I, in the evening, in the morning, on the weekend, and you sort of got the sense, at least I did, all right, maybe it's just not going to come together. So for him to shoot the 64, starting behind the 8 ball on that Sunday, I think it validates everything Scottie Scheffler's done. And in my opinion, the players, not that they're ever intimidated, but if they spoke so highly of Scottie and he is the bar, he is the standard, that's what other players in the top 10 of the world ranking are saying. And he does this, not 100%, not having his best stuff, at least physically, but finding a way. I mean, Matt, I go back to 25 months ago when I interviewed him at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. That was his very first PGA Tour victory. You rattled off all the stats and what he's done in his PGA Tour career. If he can do this when he's hurt, when he's got to dig deep, find a way, you know, it will be interesting to see if it can continue. We know this game changes week to week, but what he just did over the course of the weekend with that neck issue and with world-class players in front of him, man, that was fun to watch, and it'll be intriguing once he gets healthy if he can continue this run he's on in early 2024.
Well, I think there's 2 observations, gentlemen, to take in as you've made your comments. One being he's still only 27 years old. And the other one, to what Todd was talking about, nowadays maybe it's ball striking for dough and putt for show. But Burko, I'd like to ask you something first. Let's look at the other side of the coin just for a second. We know that signature events were crafted to spotlight the tour's stars. And here, in this event, we're not only talking about that, but it's a flagship event for the PGA Tour on top of it. Yet, along the way this season, we've seen a series of winners that were, at the very least, not marquee names when they had won, or at least not yet. Grayson Murray won again, but Nick Dunlap and Jake Knapp, amongst others, come to mind. So Sunday, it would seem that it finally delivered on the promise. It feels like Scheffler, who was already a huge star, he's been raised to the status of being everything everyone was hoping for. And would this victory turn him into the heavyweight star? Those comparisons, of course, are being made to the pantheon of the game. I just did it with Jack Nicklaus a moment ago as an example. But here's the question. Are we making too much of this? Is this about thrusting him and taking the tour upon his shoulders, or is it wishful thinking?
I think it's somewhere in the middle. I think it is a balance. When you come in as world number one, he made history, the first player in 50 years of the Players Championship to go back-to-back. So I think it's somewhere in the middle, if you will. It's a small sample size. It's 2 remarkable weeks in the state of Florida. But when you look at the separation in the world ranking, where Scottie is, the top 3s, the top 5s, the top 10 finishes over the course of what is a very young PGA Tour career. I mean, that's sort of part of our responsibility, if you will, to project, to look at the facts, to assimilate to maybe other players at a certain point of their particular careers. And you sort of reference it. We were waiting for that spark. We got it at Bay Hill with world number one. You look at that leaderboard on Saturday and Sunday at TPC Sawgrass. It is what you want to see. Top 10 players in the world. Brian Harman, an Open champ, in the conversation. A couple of young names like Ludwig Oberg or Maverick McNeely. But who was it? It was the guy with a bum neck, world number one. And I looked at his drive on the opening hole yesterday, and I thought, it might be a long day for Scottie. It loosened up. He found a way. And go look at his reaction when he holed out on 4. There was no jubilation. There was no excitement. It was just a look to Ted Scott, a bit of a fist pump, and he was off and running. Why wouldn't we think that the potential for this to continue? Because he shows up in big spots, big events, big places. Scottie Scheffler is front and center. I could easily see this snowballing the next few weeks, potentially into Augusta National and moving forward. Todd, we could be having a conversation in 3, 4, 5 months that Scottie Scheffler has 4, 5, 6 wins on the PGA Tour.
Easily. I mean, he could have a 6 or 7 win season this year. I want to touch on a couple of things. First off, in regards to that event, prior to the Players, yes, we haven't had stellar winners. I think the average world ranking of the PGA Tour members that had won is 67th in the world. And I find that to be fascinating as well. Hadn't heard of Jake Knapp prior to this year from many of us in the golf space. But having Scottie Scheffler battle off 3 top 10 players in Wyndham Clark, Xander Schauffele, and Brian Harman, that was fascinating golf. And for him to come back like he did 5 shots back, that too, very dramatic and very engaging for the fans. But in regards to Scottie Scheffler, I find it not only that he is such a great player, but he's also a phenomenal, relatable personality. I'm out there on the PGA Tour, and I'm watching how the fans gravitate to players. Yes, for years they've been gravitating to Rory McIlroy and to Jordan Spieth. But I'm seeing a shift now to Scottie Scheffler because he is relatable. He's kind. He's fun. He's kind of the son that you want to have if you're a parent, and fans love that. Secondly, he's got a flawed swing. When I say that, I mean, it looks unique. It's not perfect, but it surely does work, doesn't it, from tee to green? When I say flawed, I mean, it just does, look what he's doing. He's Fred Astaire on the tee, but it works. He swings his swing. And I think he is growing so much in popularity, and obviously his record speaks for itself. But yes, if he putts like the way he's been putting the last 2 weeks, this could be a 6 or 7 win season, and 1 or 2 of them could be major championships.